Hey guys, Dale here, back with a brand new RimWorld series. We're calling this one Arwynden, Keepers of the Grove. And so this is going to be part zero. Those of you that haven't been around for like a series launch with a part zero, in this episode, we're just going to go through some of the key mods and review those in a bit more detail than typical. We'll take a look at the world, we'll take a look at our ideal legend in detail, our base plans that I've crafted up. We'll introduce you to our starting colonists and we'll talk about the objective of the playthrough. When we get to part one, that'll be the beginning of gameplay, and we'll touch on those things as they're relevant for gameplay, but we won't go into them in super great detail unless it's relevant for some reason. I like to get started with these part zeros by just hitting the graphics setter button here and taking a look at this memory page just so you can see kind of like the heavy hitters on what mods are adding some of the most like actual like textures and stuff to the game. So we have medieval overhaul, vanilla textures expansion, expanded facial animation. I do like the facial stuff type mods. I haven't played with them in a while, but I played with them a lot in 1.3, and this add-on to the facial animation mod I think is kind of the style that I prefer. And so we'll take a look at some of that. Outland Genetics is adding a ton of genes to the playthrough, and we do utilize some of them in the custom xenos that we've used. We have dev designers elves, so this adds some factions. It adds a lot of really cool gear, which I think will fit in well to the type of colony that we're building, so we might utilize some of that. LTS furniture or furnishing, mostly just for some of the interesting building things that we can do with it. Specifically, some like extra large pillars I think are going to fit into our playthrough and base style. Outland Core and all of the Outland mods from Neuronics are in here. This adds a bunch of armor, a bunch of furniture that is really good looking and I think fits really well into medieval fantasy play styles, as well as some factions. The Wild Fields apparel and weapons. I think this is the fawn and satire stuff, and we'll take a look at that. I'll pop it up on the screen here in a minute. Lots of stuff to support medieval overhaul and alpha memes. Forgotten Realms adds a bunch of fantasy xenotypes. House Sanguine from Dev Designer. So lots of things supporting that medieval experience. Regrowth Core is in here specifically for the Aspen Forest biome, which is what we're going to be playing in. So let me pop up this screen and we'll take a look. Some of you guys are familiar with medieval overhaul. Some of you guys might have watched our Viking Wolf playthrough. Main feature, like, we're going to be tech limited, we're going to be in the medieval era, and so are all the factions that we're going to interact with. This adds tons of furniture. It changes up production styles. There's actually like steps to get leather, tanning it from raw hide, as well as, you know, making making cloth from cotton fibers. So tons and tons of content in here and a lot of changes to the way that you play the game. It's a really aesthetically pleasing mod. Playing medieval playthroughs of RimWorld is like one of my favorite ways to play it. I struggle between medieval and Star Wars, if you guys haven't been able to tell. Those are like my preferred worlds to build in this game. Let's take a look at Outland. You can see here that Neuronics has put together a few collections. So just a general Outpost 21 mods, so his mod collections, and then an Outland series. So we'll pop that open. And you can see there are a lot of factions, and each of these factions bring in unique xenotypes as well as some new furniture and armor styles as well. So a really cool mod. It's the same for me with medieval overhaul. There's just lots of like great aesthetics here to really just kind of like round out your like colony building fantasies, if that's one of the big reasons that you play the game, is for like building really beautiful colonies. And for me, that's what I try to accomplish. And hopefully I get it right some of the times, and some of the times it's definitely a disaster. Also from Neuronics is the Forgotten Realms Biotech Edition. So this is pretty new for 1.4. It just came out a couple weeks ago, and we'll take a look here. It just adds a bunch of new races from kind of the Dungeons and Dragons world. So we have tieflings, satyrs, furbolgs, halflings, all kinds of dwarves, and this is all done with biotech genetics. So adding this mod gets you options like this tiefling body style and these horns, or this nose that the furbolgs have. If we take a look here, we also have various types of gnomes, illithids, various types of dwarves. We have half orcs and orcs, Killorians, kobolds, goblins, hobgoblins, bugbears, and tabaxi. Unfortunately, some of these won't look as great when they show up in the game because of the facial animation stuff. So we'll kind of like see how that plays out. So I do need the facial animation mod to make my dryads that I've created work. Without it, their face color isn't matching the rest of their skin color. So it's kind of like a compromise that I'm going to have to make. And we will, I think for some of these, we'll just hope that they don't show up too frequently. And then over here, we have a bunch of different kind of elves and some kind of mystery here. I'm not sure if that's just like alluding to like, more to come in the future, or if there's actually something hidden in the mod. I didn't like dive into the files deeply or anything like that. So Aaron is another great modder, and we have at least 3 hairstyles mods from Aaron. Just really beautiful hairstyles here. And we're going for like whimsical forest dryads. So I really wanted to kind of use some of these like really beautiful and whimsical hairs that she does. This Baldur's Gate 3 hairstyles definitely caught my eye. So we have that added as well. And then just wanted to show off kind of like Aaron's workshop items a bit. Lots of beautifully done art. Lots of like animal mods, lots of different alien races or xenotypes, and she's a big collaborator with other modders as well, so you should definitely check out her stuff. Big kind of like feature of this story is we're going to be playing with Vanilla Factions Expanded. We do have like medieval and Vikings as well, but I've never really played the kind of like senator system part of Factions Expanded. So that'll be kind of like the focus of our playthrough. Is there are 3 new factions, so the Western, Central, and Eastern Republics, and each of them have 5 senators that you can collect. So, as long as you're getting allied with them, I think you can do quests for them in order to be able to like house one of their senators. So once you complete that quest, you'll bring the senator to your colony. You have to keep them safe. And you can see here there's like some associated bonuses with having a specific senator at your base. So like from the Western Republic, if we have 2 senators, we have pain threshold increased by 10%, and it also unlocks the research project legionary armament. So craft tents, javelins, daggers, other stuff. So there's some neat bonuses here. And so our main objective is going to be to collect all of these senators to unite the republics. So I've tried to set it up with Xenotype spawn control that the republics will have some more kind of like whimsical fae like xenotypes in them, so it'll kind of make sense that they're allying with this like dryad protectors of the grove faction that we've created for ourselves. Lots of interesting textures here for clothing, some new types of joy. So I'm excited for us to be like trying all that stuff out. Satire and Fae. This is expands upon this mod, Fawn, and this mod, Satire, all of these by Rue. But this adds some gear. So we can see there's a muffalope that's a little smaller than a muffalo, and kind of has like more of a little like fawn foresty type feel. There are new weapons that have been added. And we're actually going to make this anima rod one of our relics. And then there's some Fey garments. So we'll definitely see some of this on some of our folks, but there's so many different armor types and so many different apparels in this mod pack that it's not going to be what we're exclusively wearing. But this Fey cloak and this Fey cap, like I think it would make sense for like high priest or shaman or whoever, our moral guide, to be wearing that type of gear. The fawn and the satire races just like look super good. Disappointingly, there is going to be a conflict with like facial stuff and these really unique faces that they have. So they'll have more human looking faces instead of these deer faces. But they're pretty neat xenotypes. They have some special abilities. So regardless of that one aesthetic change, it's going to be exciting to have them as well. We are playing with vanilla casting expanded. That's been kind of like par for the course for the past couple series. We didn't do it for like Rim Effect because it didn't make sense. We had our own like power system there. But we are also using the fantasy flavor pack. So things that are being called mana and magic and you know, the different casting trees are called other things rather than what they are, and just kind of like the straight casting expanded mod. We have vanilla ideology expanded anima theme. And if you haven't seen this, it basically takes like all of the garland stuff, all the dryad stuff, and gives it an anima tree theme retexture. And so that'll kind of like unify some of the coloring, because we are going to have the anima tree be like a central focus of what our colonists are doing. They're going to like, you know, our psychically sensitive ones are going to be meditating there. We are going to be having dryads, you know, kind of referring to these guys as like the lesser dryads, whereas our genotype stuff is going to be the more evolved dryads that are tending the trees and kind of utilizing these. I haven't really done a playthrough where we've taken advantage of or used the dryads really for much, if anything. I've had them for aesthetic purposes just because the tree itself provides beauty with the like falling leaves that it has. But yeah, we'll see how many of these we can get up and running, and we'll see how useful these are. We also have the mod that allows us to kind of like merge these dryads together for like some higher leveled forms of them. So we're going all in on the anima nexus stuff. A lot of people ask about the trees in my playthrough. So this is the majestic foliage framework. This is like the base. It's the framework for the mod that I use that retextures all my trees. And you can kind of see in the animation here that the trees are like fading in and out. There's a lot of options in this mod for how big the trees are going to be, what textures you're going to use, whether it's vanilla or custom textures. I have majestic trees, Comingo's original. So that's what I'm using to retexture the trees that we have. And you can see it supports regrowth aspen forests. We do have aspen forest. That's the biome that we'll be playing in. Typically, this forest is a cold weather biome. So it's like usually next to tundra. It's further north. On our map, I've done some custom designing. Our map didn't actually spawn with any aspen forests on it. And so I wanted our grove to feel like it was like perpetually in fall. And so the aspen forest with the, you know, the red and gold leaved trees is going to feel that way. But we're in a warmer biome, so we almost have year-round growing instead of basically being like just a more beautiful version of a boreal forest. So it'll be a little bit different. Let me switch back to just the game view, and we'll like pop in and take a look at some of these things. So I will load up our save, and we'll take a look at the world. So let's pop down here. This map is, you can see that there aren't very many named features. Like the seed is Arwynden, but then I removed a lot of the custom features. We have our dryad grove here, and I'll change our faction icon. I actually want it to be our ideal legend icon. So I'll make that change. And we've just kind of called this area the Dryad Grove. And you can see that there's like a small patch of aspen forest here. And we happen to be tucked between some mountains. So it's a cool shape of the map. Basically, it's mountains on all three sides, so really defensible. And because of that, because a lot of the map is mountain and not necessarily like usable constantly, I opted for a really big map. So I think we went to one of the huge sizes. You can see that we have a pretty diverse selection of factions here. For the most part, all of them just have like one base. These guys, this faction, the Lermy kinship, there happen to be two bases there. But we have one of our republics here, another one down here, and another one down there. We'll actually have to go and visit them in order to do quests for them and acquire their senators. Let's hop back into our map, and let's take a look at our ideal legend. I think I'm going to be making a couple tweaks here. This is what I could create with just going through the process, starting the game. But we are tree connection, nature primacy, god emperor, and dryad supremacy. The things that I want to change is I want to edit some of these roles. So we'll probably like add a couple more. I might take a look at the rituals and make sure that they make sense. But other than that, everything else is like set to go. So we are a embodied theist ideal legend, so it does require that we have at least two deities. So we have three. We have Arwynden, who happens to be this pawn right here, Alara, and Thela. And so Arwynden is the primordial of the forest, Alara the primordial of the rivers, and Thela the primordial of the mountains. I created a little narrative. So Arwynden created the grove and breathed life into it. Alara guided two great rivers to the grove to nourish it. Thela raised mountains around the grove to protect it. Together, these primordial nature spirits nurtured the grove and gave rise to lesser and greater dryads, calling their wards druids and charging them with protecting their creation. Arwynden said, "For you shall care for the forest that I have cultivated, and in yourselves you will become one with nature, just as my sisters and I have." So when it comes to precepts, anima nexus connection is strong. So this is what the garland tree is called in that anima skin retheme. We venerate elders. Our leader is godlike because Arwynden, not necessarily a god, but a great nature spirit. We're calling her a primordial, right? Other important things here, because we venerate the anima nexus tree and those dryads, our combat prowess is reduced. So we're going to be dependent on those dryads to help with defense around the base. Since we're going with that classical theme, I expect that they would expect to have lots of art. I want our base to be kind of like very like Roman, Greek, like ancient, like themed. And so we'll take a look at the plans, and they might not make sense, but once I start building them, hopefully you'll kind of like see what I'm going for. With nature primacy and tree connection, we get rough living, tough temperatures, no fishing, and slaughtering animals is disapproved. Trees are desired. So we want to have trees. I don't know if we have bad thoughts for cutting trees. It doesn't look like we do. But we'll avoid cutting trees as much as possible, and just like relocate them, because we want to have lots and lots of trees around. Down here, our leader is going to be the Archdruid, and so Arwynden will be our Archdruid. Our moral guide will be High Priestess. I'm not sure if we'll have a Master Architect. I think Mountain Shaper makes sense, since like Thela is one of the primordials that they worship. Grove Tender is our specialist. Nurse will be our Druid healer. And we have potentially we'll keep the party host as a druidic reveler, but I would like to get like a melee and a range specialist in the colony. So I'll get those added. We have a few different social festivals, and when I was looking at pictures of like ancient Roman cities or like plans for ancient Roman cities, there would be lots of temples actually. So I think we're going to have three temples, one for each of the primordials, and we will do certain rituals in certain temples. So we'll do our social festivals in our forest temple and our river temple. We also have like Earthly Frolic and Mountain Call. We'll do those in Thela's temple. So I just want to make sure that those are a little bit more evenly distributed so that we're utilizing these temples. And then down here we have our ideological buildings, Forest Altar, Form of the Mountains, and our River Cauldron. And then the last thing that's probably really relevant for this playthrough is our relics. So we have a relic for each of these three kind of like primordials. We have, they got renamed. So this is supposed to be the Soul of the Forest. This is supposed to be Heart of the Mountain. And this is supposed to be the Chalice of the River. So I must have like changed something and these got renamed. These also got renamed, but we'll have a staff for each of them as well. And so they'll end up with a legendary weapon if we get to that point that we've collected all of these relics. That's our ideologian. Our colonists starting out, we have Arwynden here. And so if we take a look at Arwynden, her germline genes are the genes that we've created for our dryads. And then she does have some xeno genes. Nope, I did that wrong. Oh, I did do that wrong. She's supposed to be gold with horns. Okay, so I need to adjust her xenotype. We have that's so weird. If we go into character editor, load custom primordial druid. Okay, I'm not sure what I did. I must have overwritten something, but she's supposed to have golden skin, some horns, and some more archotech type powers, or arc, in the game. But I'll get that fixed before we go into episode 1. Fabi and Seneca are just straight up dryads, so photosynthesis, sapling birth, some wooden skin. The bark skin is kind of what gives them this aesthetic on their bodies. Dryad ears and nature connection. We have Drusilla over here, who is a naiad, so like a water spirit. So she has water blood, water vomit, rain veil. So when it's raining, she has higher dodge chance, no flammability, and higher heat armor. She is aquatic, so she moves faster across aquatic terrain, or no, just ignores the terrain path cost. And then she's an egg layer. Over here we have Octavia, who's supposed to be our like mountain nymph. She has mithril skin, and we gave her limestone skin color. She's slow shooter, but she also has this ability of petrifying gaze. So she can stun people. What abilities do you have? Oh, are you magically gifted? You're magically gifted. You have arcane speed. Interesting. Yeah, so these guys don't have any abilities, any active abilities. So Octavia's the only one. Let's take a look at our base plans real quick, and I think that'll wrap things up for this episode. So I'll just like toggle those on here. I'm going to be building a huge base, and ignore that. That's just me like playing around with shapes. But we will have our forest temple up here. We will have our river temple and our mountain temple. This structure right here is going to be housing senators as well as this structure. If we zoom in here, we have the invisible walls and doors mod. And so all of the orange will be invisible walls so that we can actually like separate them out into bedrooms. And then we're going to just be building with a lot of pillars. So that's what these black boxes will be. And then of course the pink is like a bed, end tables, and a dresser. So that's kind of how I how I use the more planning tool. We have some individual houses here, so it's gonna hopefully feel like everything is very, very open. And we might put some actual walls up because I think it would make sense for like this backside to have a wall, or maybe even leading to the front. And it's really just that's just kind of like open pillory feeling. But we're gonna go with that theme throughout. We have mirrored these buildings down below, but I don't necessarily think that they'll be bedrooms. We might utilize them as workshops and storage or other things. We do have a mod that like allows us to rent rooms and have tenants. I thought that would be neat just so that we could see more of the xenotypes like popping in and out. And then, of course, we'll have like a defensive wall down here. I don't think we're going to be going for like a kill box necessarily. I think we just want to funnel them in through our main gate. Last time I played a medieval playthrough, the enemy pawns were heavily melee. And so it kind of felt bad just like gunning them all down before they could like show up to our doors. So we'll kind of like play it by ear and see if this ends up skewing heavily melee. I think it would be more interesting if we played more heavily melee, but we'll see how that goes. Anyhow, that is kind of my summary for before we get started. Episode 1 is coming out here in a little bit, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Until next time, have a good one. Bye.